Hello and welcome to another episode of New York Giants Corner here at Toilets to Titles. If not your favorite, I'm sure one of your favorite Giants content shows out there every Wednesday night around 8:15-ish. I am here at Toilets to Titles giving you the great Giants content that I love to give because we all love our beloved New York Giants. Anyway, guys, it is Wednesday, April 12th. We are just basically 2 weeks out tomorrow. It'll be 2 weeks out from the draft. It's been a long time coming. As Giants fans, we had a great season, and usually we start looking forward to the draft in like November, right? But we had a great year. We made it to January in the playoffs. We won a divisional game, and we had an extended season. It was phenomenal. It was just a great season. But even with that, it still feels like there's so much time in between the end of the season and the draft. And I love this time of the season. I love it. I love reading up on the players. I love watching videotape, of the games of the players, breaking them down. But me and Coach and Nino and Jared and Dennis have been writing up a lot of player profiles. Go to our website, toilstitles.com. We're up to something like almost 110 player profiles that we've written up. Most of them done by Nino and Coach, but I've also contributed around 20 myself. Nino and Jared have contributed a bunch as well, but Coach and Nino have done most of those write-ups. But we're all really proud of them. Please go to our website, toilstotitles.com. Check out our player profiles. We now have our big board list up of our top 100 players. So far, we just have our top 50 players up, but we do have like over 100 profiles. And we do have our top 50 players ranked right now on our Toilets to Titles big board. We just put that up last night. There's links to player profiles for most of those players. Check it out. Again, really, really proud of all the work that we've all put into it. And man, just looking for draft day, just 2 weeks, just 2 weeks away. It's absolutely amazing. Dennis, how's it going, Dennis? Dennis is one of my guys, one of my compadres over here at Toss the Titles, big time Lions fan. And you're right, Dennis. Joe knows. Joe does know. That's right, baby. And Dennis, like I said, along with me and Jared, and especially Nino and Coach, have worked on a bunch of those player profiles. Really proud of them. Check them out, toiletstotitles.com. And we've got actually after the show's over, coaches bombarded me with like three new player profiles. I think all tight ends. So I have to review them and get them on the website afterwards. So there's going to be three more player profiles to read for you tonight or tomorrow morning when you wake up. Some good reading material. Anyway, before I get the bells and whistles out of the way, I do want to announce that my dog Melvin's starting to act up. He hates when I do the show. Um, and my wife just stepped out for a second. Hopefully Melvin will be quiet. But anyway, big announcement. I am really excited. Listen, I follow like 30 Giants content creators at least out there. Big fan of all of them. Of course, there's some shows that I follow more than others, and but one of them is a show called Just Giants, and it's hosted by It's hosted by Football Grump. That's at football underscore Grump, and his co-host is the Cranky Fan at the Cranky Fan. And every Wednesday they release their episode, and it's just I fully recommend you should listen to them. I do every Wednesday morning. They release their episode. I listen to it. It's just great listening to those two talk about Giants football. Two highly intelligent Giants fans having a great conversation, great analysis, and I just love listening to them. They are going to be a guest on this show tomorrow night. Not live. We're actually going to record it tomorrow night at around 8:30, and then at around 8:30, and then I'm going to release it Friday morning. So again, it's going to be tomorrow night. We'll be recording the episode with it's going to be Just Giants, the co-host, the Football Grump, and the Cranky Fan. And I just have to keep my dog Melvin occupied here for a little bit until my wife comes back. So you might hear some whining in the background. He's a hound, and they live up to their names. They hound. They know how to hound and when to hound. Just such a bad boy. It's unbelievable. But I love him so much. He's my wingman. Anyway, guys, so this is going to be somewhat of a short episode. So again, special guest tomorrow night. I'm going to release the episode Friday morning. We're going to be talking about the draft, of course, and I want to hear, and I want you to hear their views, their opinions on how we should approach the draft. We're going to do a mock draft as well to see where we go, the three of us combined, where we go with each round with the players that are available. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And listen, this team, our beloved team, we've got quite a few holes, lacking depth in many areas, and surprisingly, not really lacking depth in wide receiver anymore. Surprisingly, but we are lacking depth in many different areas. So we've got so many options really open to us, regardless of the round, and also, but there are also some glaring needs. Obviously, like like center, still wide receiver. We still need like a like a 1A player out there at wide receiver. And then cornerback, CB. We also need some safety help too. And like I said, we still need depth pretty much all over the place. But it's not everything is clear cut in this draft for us. We do have glaring needs that I want to see addressed with some talented players in the early rounds. Hang on one second. Hang on one second. And so, but like I said, you can't reach for players either. So it's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to discussing, their views with Talking Giants. I'm not Talking Giants with Just Giants tomorrow. Get their views on the draft. Players they have in mind that they'd love to see the team get realistically, and just what they would do based on who's available on the board when we do this mock at the end of the show tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to it. Been wanting to have them on for a long time. They've agreed to come on, and credit to them because I've been seeing them all over the place. Just Giants is a very wanted commodity right now. So I had the idea a long time ago to get these guys on. I'm a procrastinator, and I procrastinated, and I was going to have them on this spring, before the draft, and lo and behold, I see them all over the place, and other people are stealing my great ideas out there. But they've agreed to be on, and I'm really looking forward to it. Anyway, this is going to be somewhat of a shorter show tonight. Going to keep it simple. Going to keep it simple. We're going to focus on realistic options for the Giants in the first round, and I'm going to take like the quarterbacks off the board for us. Some other players that will never fall to us, in my opinion. But there are going to be quite a few players that are going to be available. And like I said, we're a team that's got quite a few holes and are seriously lacking depth all over the place. So I don't think our options are necessarily like as clear cut as you think. That's why I just wanted to go through this with you. It's focused on the first round, not going to be a long episode. Anyway, bells and whistles, let's get them out of the way. Please hit that like button and subscribe. Give us that 5-star Apple review. I do want to say thank you to all. Just last week, we breached the 1,000 subscriber mark last week. Thank you to all of you so much. We've been in next month in May, Toilets and Titles is going to be celebrating its third year, its third anniversary, and we just breached 1,000 subscribers. That's a huge metric. We really appreciate it. Everyone, thank you so much for subscribing to the show. We really appreciate that. People appreciate us. It's really cool. Where you can find the show: Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify. Our beautiful, wonderful website, toiletsandtitles.com, has all of our videos, all of our articles. We originally started out as a fantasy football advice network. Then we're also do NFL football now as well, college football, draft content. I've got a Giant show. Coach Shepsa now has a Sunday morning Cowboy show. So we've got team centric shows going on too. However, we've also recently merged with at the CFB Nation. They've got their own YouTube channel. And what's going on is they're handling the vast majority of the college content now. And then when those players are graduating, when they're coming to the draft, we get them over here at Toilets and Titles. So it's a great collaboration, a great crew over there at the CFB Nation. And some of the guys here at Toilets and Titles have their feet in both programs, especially Nino Brown, who does so much of our college work and in content, as well as Jared Gray, Dennis Knoll. These guys, they've got their feet in both programs, but we're partnered up with CFB Nation. Fantastic college content, and we are going to get them up to 1,000 subs as soon as we possibly can. They're going up a lot. They're actually growing dramatically. We got to get them up to 1,000 subs as well. Patreon.com/Titles. You go there, you can learn how you can further support the show. And thank you to our current Patreon supporters. We really appreciate that you appreciate us. Thank you so much for your support, for your extra support. Really do. And last but not least, Gilded. We have our own Toilets to Titles chat in Gilded. If you want to come on in, just reach out to us on Twitter. We're talking football. We are running mock drafts all the time, whether it's mock drafts for the upcoming NFL draft. We do fantasy football mock drafts all the time right now. We do, even for like Debbie leagues and all different types of fantasy leagues. We're constantly running mock drafts all the time. We have a lot of fun. You want to join our Gilded Chat? Come on in, talk football, do mock drafts out the wazoo. Reach out to us on Twitter at toiletstotitles.com. I should say at toiletstotitles. We'll get you into our Gilded Chat. It's a lot of fun. Okay, guys. All right, so let's talk again. Realistic first round options for our beloved New York Giants. And what I'm doing is I'm going to use the PFF draft simulator up here. And as you'll see, I already started it. I put it on auto draft except for the Giants. So here we are, ready for the Giants to pick. And these are the players that are available. Now, because I wanted you to see what it's going to, what it could look like when we're drafting in the first round and who's going to be available. I know the vast majority of us, we have our minds, made up pretty much where we want either a wide receiver. That's like been the biggest one for a long time, like a true blue wide receiver one. Is that player even going to be there though? Realistically, could be, could be. I think we may have someone. I think we may have one of those wide receivers fall to us who I think is worthy of. Actually, I don't know if worthy of being like a wide receiver, true wide receiver one, but at least, being the best wide receiver on the team very quickly, just like a super talented wide receiver. I think one of those guys will fall to us. I think there will be an option. We also need a center. I know, a lot of people, a lot of experts, keep saying we need help on the interior offensive line. That's true, but the real position of need, of dire need, is center, specifically center. That is what we need. And another one is cornerback. That is CB. I'm just pointing that out because sometimes I feel like sometimes when I say cornerback, it sounds like I'm saying quarterback. So we need a CB big time opposite of Adoree Jackson. I love Adoree Jackson. I love him to be here as soon as as long as possible. But he's getting a little older. I mean, he's not old in the tooth or anything, but he's getting a little older. And the guy has, except for last year, Adoree Jackson has had a history of injury. And yes, he did get injured last year, but that was ridiculous when Coach Dable, and probably the only move that I disagreed with him on. I think every fan disagreed with him on was when he put Adoree Jackson in as punt returner. And lo and behold, after like 2 games, he gets injured and he's out for like 6 weeks. How we survive that is beyond me. But anyway, we do need some serious help. A starter opposite of Adoree Jackson. We also need depth. Now, I am really intrigued by some of the young guys that we have on the team. Aaron Robinson, I still am really intrigued by Aaron Robinson, who we drafted 2 years ago. He was originally a slot, but he had the size and the speed and the physicality to play on the outside. And it looks like that's where the Giants were going to play him last year. And he was having a great camp last year. He was having a great preseason last year, and then he got injured and he was out for the rest of the season. So, but I can't count on the guy. I really like the guy a lot. I loved when we drafted him in the third round 2 years ago. But there's no way I will ever count on any player who's been injured 2 years in a row, unless you're talking like a torn ACL or like a rolled ankle. But if someone's injured for 2 years in a row, I cannot count on them anymore, especially when they've proven nothing so far in the NFL. And another cornerback I'm really intrigued by is Cordell Flott, who we took in the third round last year. And that was an eye raiser, an eyebrow raiser last year when that happened. Be honest, I wasn't familiar with him at the time. I heard the name. I really didn't look into him too much because honestly, I didn't think he was a player we're going to wind up with. And lo and behold, we took him in the third round. And lo and behold, I wound up being impressed with how he flashed in the chances that he played. And I don't know how many snaps Flott played last year, but he played more snaps as the season went on, and as we had some injuries near the end of the season, like the second half of the season, like Adoree Jackson and Xavier McKinney. And at that point, it was like all hands on deck, and they got even the younger guys in there, like Cordell Flott. And Cordell Flott flashed pretty well, in my opinion, and I'm really intrigued. Now, that dude is like 168 pounds soaking wet. He's not someone I want to count on to be, a boundary corner, an outside corner going forward, but I am intrigued. And he was playing on the outside at times. He was playing on the slot and he was playing on the outside. He's got the height and he's got the length. He's a tall, skinny dude. And those skinny dudes usually wind up being really athletic. The tall, really tall, thin, wiry guys always wind up being surprisingly athletic and actually surprisingly strong. More strong than you would think normally. And Cordell Flott, well, he played pretty well last year. I don't know what his PFF score was or whatever, but just the eye test, I thought Flott played pretty well last year. I was very intrigued. However, I'm not resting on any of that. I'm not resting on Flott, not resting on Aaron Robinson. We need another corner, a guy who could legitimately projected to legitimately be able to play cornerback on the outside. I believe, one of my guests tomorrow is going to be Football Grump. I believe he feels the same way that he'd rather pay. I'm not sure if it's Grump or Crank or maybe Entertainer. I'm thinking of that one of the other content creators out there that I listen to a lot, one of them said, and I agree 100% that they get really nervous about just drafting cornerbacks and relying on that. Like they want proven commodities at CB because it's so important and it seems to be such a coin flip when you draft these guys as to how they're going to work out in the NFL. And I realize you can say that about many positions or all positions, but cornerback, look at Jeff Okuda. Like when it comes to CB, that seems to be particularly the case. It's just hard, to get these guys, too many of these guys to really, live up to their projections in the NFL. Jeff Okuda is a perfect option, perfect example. Who the Falcons traded a fifth round pick for last year, just like yesterday actually, and he was drafted like 3 years ago. He was like a top five pick. I thought deservedly so, and I still believe in Jeff Okuda. I think change of scenery, good coaching could turn Okuda around. It's funny, he was traded for, I think, yesterday, and it was that same morning where I was thinking, I know the Lions were out on Akuda, and I was thinking that, man, I wish the Giants could trade like a fifth round pick for Akuda. I think that'd be a great gamble. Kind of like low risk fifth round, no big deal, high reward. Akuda was awesome in college, and failed miserably at the Lions. And I thought, that would be a great pick for the Giants. And well, it looks like the Falcons were thinking the same thing, and they went and they got him. But anyway, I'm spending too much time just talking those guys. But so wide receiver, center, cornerback, those are like the three biggest positions of need. Safety is out there too in my mind. Now I don't have it as my number one safety. Safety is my number one position of need, but it's a need. Losing Julian Love hurt a lot. Uh, I'm not saying he was a Pro Bowler or he was ever going to be a Pro Bowler, but you know what? He was a damn good, solid safety, and he could play the slot as well. He was a very versatile player, and he wasn't just versatile. He was a solid player, really smart, heady player, talented. Um, and yeah, I guess you could do better than Julian Love. You could. He was never going to wind up being a Pro Bowler probably, but you could do a hell of a lot worse than Julian Love out there. And we have done a hell of a lot worse than Julian Love out there in our recent past. So I was very disappointed to see him go. I thought the Giants should have found a way to keep him. And you know what? If you draft a banger of a safety out there this year to play with McKinney long term, and you want to trade Julian Love next season, great. But I didn't want to see him go for nothing. It's just more holes that were created. I like that we I like that we filled, we added a lot of depth at the wide receiver position. That was cool. But we lost depth, it's in the secondary. It looks like Fabian Moreau is probably not going to be back. He was not a great cornerback, but he fit our system fine. Where it was like, okay, you can go out there, you don't have to worry too much. You can do a lot worse than Fabian Moreau. So it looks like he's not going to be back. We lost one of our starting safeties in Julian Love. So while we beefed up the wide receiver room and the tight end room, obviously with Darren Waller, that was a hell of a pickup. We've lost and the defensive line. We beefed up. We've gotten help there too. We got Bobby Okereke at linebacker. I love that, but we did lose depth in the secondary and at center as well. So safety is a position of need in my mind. Um, and you look at this, like I said, I just did this. I just started the simulation here just to get the ball rolling. I didn't make these picks, these were auto generated. I just wanted to get the ball rolling. And here we are, pick number 25 for the Giants. I want to focus on players who could be there for the Giants and see what our options are. There are players that I'm automatically taking off the board: Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, Jalen Carter, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Will Levis. Skoronski, I could see Skoronski actually possibly be there for us. I don't think so. I'd say it's like a 20% chance, which in my mind is a legitimate chance. Skoronski is a tackle who projects probably more to a guard position, but I'll tell you what we could use. Yeah, we don't necessarily need a tackle because we've got two young bookends. I'm assuming Evan Neal's going to wind up working out, and I believe in Evan Neal. Neal. I'm nervous about Evan Neal, but I believe in Evan Neal. But I am nervous, but I believe in him. But I'm nervous, but I believe in him. It's true. I go back and forth. I'm nervous, but I do believe in the guy long term. But anyway, Skoronski. What I like about Skoronski is that if he were there for the Giants, he would be in serious consideration for me because he could probably excel at guard where we could put him. And like I said, I really want center. That's my real area of concern on the O line is center. However, what I like about Skoronski is that he could probably really excel at guard for us and be a swing tackle. So say like, Evan Neal were to go down or Andrew Thomas were to go down, Skoronski could probably move out to either of those tackle positions, and then someone else could, their backup can come in and play the guard position for Skoronski. So I like that. And Skoronski's there, it's something serious that we'd have to think about. Lucas Van Ness, I think Lucas Van Ness may actually wind up being there when we pick. I'm just not all that high in him, and I don't think he fits our system. I think he's more of a 4-3 defensive end, and I don't think he's really like a 3-4 edge rusher. I'll tell you one thing though about Lucas Van Ness. What he could, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he could fit our system. He's a big dude. He's big. All right. He's 6'5", 272 pounds. I thought he was actually heavier than that. I thought he was more like 290. He's 272, so he's not light, but he's just lighter than I thought. He's 6'5", 272. I'm wondering if he could play like a defensive tackle position on a three-man line next to Dexter Lawrence, along with Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. Both of those guys are over 300 pounds. I think Leonard Williams is 303, if I recall correctly, and Dexter's like 336. He's just huge. Um, so Lucas Van Ness, like I don't see him succeeding on a three-man line, and he's definitely not a 3-4 edge. If anything, if you were going to play on our line, if you were there for us, and I don't think he's realistic, I'm just bringing him up because I am somewhat intrigued by him. But he strikes me as a 4-3 defensive end. Um, I wonder if because he's a strong dude, he's really strong, Lucas Van Ness. I'm wondering if he could possibly play like defensive tackle on a three-man line. Um, hmm. I don't think it's realistic, but anyway, I brought him up just in case. But I really don't have my eye on Lucas Van Ness. And again, I do think he's a 4-3 defensive end. Devin Witherspoon. This is probably my favorite cornerback in this draft. I know a lot of other people, and rightfully so, have Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon as like the 1A, slightly above Devin Witherspoon. In I get it. I totally get it. Long-term projection, his cover skills are probably like his cover projection, his skills are probably higher than Witherspoon, but Witherspoon's already a very good cornerback in his own right, and I love his physicality. If Devin Witherspoon, this isn't going to happen. If he were to fall to us at pick 25, uh, I'd run to the podium and put this guy in. I don't care who else is on the board. I don't care if Jordan Addison's on the board or whoever else. John Michael Schmitz. It doesn't matter to me. I'd take Devin Witherspoon in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even wait for teams calling me up to for us to trade back or anything. I love Devin Witherspoon. He is my 1A. I have him slightly ahead of Christian Gonzalez just because it's more of the type of cornerback that I like. I love this guy's physicality. He almost plays like a safety. This dude's a banger. He hits hard. He's very good in coverage, and he hits hard too. Plays the run game very, very well. It's not going to happen. That's my dream. I'd love Devin Witherspoon to be there. Christian Gonzalez definitely will not be there. Jackson Smith and Najigba. I'm glad to see. I constantly see Jackson Smith and Najigba constantly going a mock ahead of us now. I'm glad to see that because I remember like 2 months ago when I first started doing all these mock drafts, I kept seeing him as like a 50-50 chance that he'd be there for us. I never felt like that was realistic. Glad to see these big boards are updated, and this is correct. JSN will never make it to us. If he did, yes, of course, I would give him serious consideration. That won't happen. Here is a player, Kalijah Cansey, who in this mock draft was picked like 13, I think, by the Jets. Good pick by the Jets if they did that. Kalijah Cansey, I think, has a realistic chance of falling to us. When I say realistic, I mean like I'd say like a 25% chance. Now, that's not huge, but it's not 1% either. I think I think there's somewhat of a real chance that he could fall to us. And this guy, my concern, it's like anyone's concern with him, is his size. Now, he's 281 pounds. He's only 6'1", but this guy is a penetrator. Okay, and as Coach Sheps was saying on his Dallas Cowboys show recently, that he's definitely looking at Kalijah Cansey in the first round for the Cowboys if he were to fall there. The Cowboys are picking one pick behind us. If Cansey were to fall to the Cowboys, Coach was saying that Cansey's probably the only defensive tackle outside of Jalen Carter that he would take in the first round, and I agree with him. And the reason he gave, which I agree with, is that if you're taking a defensive tackle in the first round, it better be a dude who's a penetrator, not just a guy who can play the run, but a dude who's a penetrator on the interior of the line. Those are very, very hard to find. Cansey does that in spades. This guy is incredibly quick. He's incredibly quick off the line. He's incredibly quick feet. This dude is fast, fast, fast. For a guy who's 281 pounds, he's a lot of fun to watch. If you haven't seen video on this guy, watch it. Kalijah Cansey is fun. I have my concerns that he could play. I saw next to Dexter Lawrence um, in a 3-man front. He'd be wonderful for a team that has a 4-3 defense. I think like the Cowboys, I believe the Cowboys do. I'd have serious concerns with him if we had a 4-3 defense like we used to. When we had JPP, Strahan, and Tuck, and Umenyiora, and Chris Canty, and those guys. He would have been an awesome fit for us in a 4-3 defense. I don't think he can succeed on a 3-4 front. I don't think he can. I don't think he can. So that's my concern. But there is a chance that he's there. But I'll tell you one thing, I'd have to think about it. And if the Giants did draft him, I'd have to say I'd be happy with it, even though I have concerns with the size playing on our line. I'd be happy with it because I would trust that Wink Martindale obviously really wanted this guy and that the whole front office believed in him as well. So if the Giants drafted him, I'd totally go with it and I'd be happy with it because this dude, he's got the chance to be something special. I think he's got a little bust potential there, to be honest with you, too. I do. If he goes to the wrong team, I think he's got a bit of potential there. But I like Kalijah Cansey. If he were to be there, and I think there's like a 25% chance that he could be there for us, and the Giants took him, I'd be on board with it. I'd be on board. I have my concerns, but I'd be on board. Joey Porter could be there for us. I don't really think so. I like him a lot. If he were there, I'd say there's like a 25% chance that Porter's there for us. Probably not, but like I said, 25% chance. Be happy with him. He's like my third favorite, probably my third favorite. Actually, no, he's my fourth favorite cornerback in this draft. I actually have Deonte Banks ahead of Porter now. I like Deonte Banks. I like his athleticism too much. Porter's a good athlete in his own right, good cornerback. I like Penn State talent. They develop real ballers for the NFL. You look at Micah Parsons, you look at Saquon Barkley, you look at Miles Sanders, you look at Jaquan Brisker. I like the high end talent that comes out of Penn State these days, and Joey Porter is one of those dudes. So if he were there, in my mind, he's the fourth cornerback in this draft. I have Deonte Banks ahead of him now. If Porter were there, I'd be happy with this pick. Cornerback CB is a serious need. Um, we have a serious hole at CB, and if Joey Porter were there, if he were to fall to us, I'd be very happy with him. So I think there's a chance. Deonte Banks, he's kept mocked to us a lot earlier on in the mock draft process. Not so much anymore, understandably so. This guy really impressed at I think it was at Senior Bowl. Yeah, he really impressed at Senior Bowl and at the combine. His athleticism's off the charts. He is more raw than the other three names I mentioned: Gonzalez, Witherspoon, and Porter. He is more raw, but he's got a really high ceiling. And if Deonte Banks were there for us too, I got no problem with it. There's a realistic chance. I'd give that 25% chance that he's there for us as well. Quentin Johnson. There's a chance that Johnson's going to be there. I'd say there's like I think he's going to be gone. I see a lot of mock simulations, not in this one, but I do see a lot of mock draft simulations where this guy goes, he's there for us, and but I don't believe that's going to be the case. I strongly believe he'll be off the big board by the time we pick. But I'd say there's like a 33% chance that Quentin Johnston can be there for us, and if he's there, and he is one of the players I'd be seriously happy about taking. I know people have seemingly soured on this guy somewhat. Like JSN, rightfully so, has been rising up the boards. Zay Flowers has been rightfully so, screaming up the big boards. And I get it. I get it. And Jordan Addison, I've always loved. We're going to get to Jordan Addison in a little bit. I love Jordan Addison. Quentin Johnson, if he's there, I have no problem taking this guy, and I think it's realistic. I think there's like a 33% chance. Again, it's not 1%, it's not 5%, it's not even 10%. I'd say there's a 1 to 3 chance that Johnson is there for us at 25. And if we took him, I strongly do believe we're going wide receiver in this draft in the first round. Um, if Quentin Johnson's there, I'd love to get him. This dude is 6'3", 208 pounds. He's a really good athlete. For me, the only knock against him, yeah, maybe he's not as fast. He doesn't have like the track speed you'd want, I guess. He's still fast enough in his own right. Um, and one legitimate criticism of his, and I wouldn't say it's a concern, but it's an honest to goodness knock against him is that he doesn't catch the ball well enough with his hands. Um, Too often he's catching the ball with his body, which is limiting his own length. And this dude's 6'3", he's got really long arms. If he caught the ball more with his hands, I mean, his length would be through the roof. But even with that, he's a really good cornerback, and he's one of the only legitimate, X receivers out there. 6'3", 208 pounds. There are some other guys out there, but they're more like third round, fourth round projections. This guy's a legitimate first round projection, first round talent, and he's kind of like a force of one right now in this draft, at least for first round talent. If he were there, I'd be super happy with the Giants taking him. And I get the criticism in terms that he's too much of a body catcher than a hand catcher. Hopefully, that's something that can be rectified. I don't think I could be wrong. I don't think that's something that gets rectified too often in the NFL. If that's how they are, if they're body catchers growing up in college, I think that's how they usually tend to stay being. They just stay as body catchers. But Quentin Johnston, I do think there's a legitimate shot. He's there for us at pick 25. When I say legitimate, I'll say 33% chance. Okay, Broderick Jones. I'm not offensive tackle. I'm not looking at Broderick Jones right now, even though very good tackle out of Georgia. Paris Johnson, my favorite tackle in this draft out of Ohio State. He won't be there, but I wouldn't be looking at him anyway in the first round. Myles Murphy. Here's a guy who I think could possibly fall to us at 25. And if he did, we'd have to. The thing is, he's 258 pounds. I see this guy really more as a 4'3" defensive end, 6'5", 258 pounds. This guy is one of the best edge rushers in the draft. Now he's been dropping recently, and I'm unsure why. He's been dropping recently. I got to read up more on him to see what the problem is, but consistently for the first few months of this draft class, this draft season, Myles Murphy was looking like a legitimate top 12 pick. He's been dropping to the back end of the mid, like kind of like the middle of the first round and back end of the first round, where a lot of the mocks that I do these days, Myles Murphy is there like a good 33% of the time. If Myles Murphy is there, and again, I'd say it's a legitimate shot, 33% shot. This is a name you want to know because, yeah, edge is not necessarily the position of need on the team right now. You can always use more edge presence. Always. Remember when we had NASCAR? I realized that was a 4-3 defense, but when we were loaded up with Strahan and OC and Tuck, and heck, we even had Kiwanuka, who was a first round pick, edge. We had him, he was playing outside linebacker for us, so or weak side linebacker for us. And so you can never really have enough edge rushers. And with Azeez Ojulari, unfortunately, I love the guy, I love his talent, but he's just way too injured. So we do need another guy, another stud at the edge. We do because we just can't count on Azeez Ojulari. He's kind of like the edge rushers of Aaron Robinson. It's like the Aaron Robinson of edge rushers, just always injured. You can't count on the guy. So Myles Murphy, there's a chance he's going to be there for us, and if so, he may be a legitimate possibility. And yes, you're not going to be thinking edge as like a first round pick for us because we have areas of need that are more dire than that than edge. But if he were to fall to us, it's something you'd have the GM would have to seriously consider. Dalton Kincaid, I've got tight end off my. Dalton Kincaid is a heck of a receiving threat at tight end. However, I can't have him as a legitimate choice for us in the first round. So I'm crossing him off the board. Darnell Wright, tackle, Tennessee. He's off my board. Zay Flowers, taken one pick ahead of us. This is the dude who's got to be the biggest mover in this draft. This guy has skyrocketed up the big boards over the past few months. By now, you are well, you know Zay Flowers' name very, very well at this point. He may wind up being, he's not going to be wide receiver one. He may wind up being wide receiver two, even ahead of Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnson. He may be. I think he will be. I think he's going to be wide receiver two. I just have a feeling. He's on the smaller, so he's definitely smaller. He's 5'9", 182, but this guy is incredibly hard to cover. He's like the definition of explosive off the line. It's very hard for press men to even press men, cover guys to even get their hands on this guy. So you get your hands on him, you can be physical with him. Yeah, you can slow him down in the beginning off the line, but good luck with that. Good luck with that. Zay Flowers, I think, is a special talent. Not everyone, there is a lot of hype around him, and not everyone's necessarily on board with that. I'm a huge believer in Zay Flowers. There is a legitimate shot. I'd say there's a 50. I'll say there's a 40% chance Zay Flowers is there for us. I'll say 50-50. 50-50 chance Zay Flowers is on the board for us when we pick. And if we took him, even though I don't feel wide receiver is the position of need that it was just a few months ago, given that we signed Paris Campbell, and we got Waller. Waller's a tight end, but still, he's a serious receiving threat. I feel a lot more comfortable with the receiving group now than I do with our secondary and our O line, and still our linebacker core. Uh, but if Zay Flowers is there, there's a 50-50 chance he'll be available for us on the board when we pick. 50-50, I say. And this is a guy who I think is worthy for us taking. I realize not all Giants fans agree with that. I think Grump and Cranky Fan, when they come on tomorrow night, I think they agree with that assessment. They're not really on board with Zay Flowers, at least as a first round pick. At least as a first round pick, if I recall correctly. If I recall correctly. But I like Zay Flowers a lot, and this dude is a realistic option if he's there. Let's see. All right, guys. So those are the players that were already picked in this mock draft. Now I want to show you who else is available. Here's a guy, Brian Branch, who I'd say out of like every 4 or 5 mock draft simulations that I run, Brian Branch falls to us. Brian Branch is a very special player. He's a safety. He may even be more promising than McKinney was coming out of college. Brian Branch is a special player. I love the safety position. I'm a big believer in the safety position, and so is Wink Martindale. He loves his safeties. And I got to tell you, if we had Brian Branch and say a cornerback out there, uh, not necessarily over Witherspoon. I would take Witherspoon over Branch, but I guess. But I'll tell you, if this is what we were really looking at in the first round when we pick on our board when we pick at 25, Brian Branch, Jordan Addison, who I love, Emmanuel Forbes. I like this dude a lot. I believe in him. Really skinny, but I believe in him a lot. Uh, Other than that, Osiris Torrance, really good guard prospect. I'm not really looking at guard. Um, for me, if you were looking at this situation, if this were real, where Brian Branch were there with the rest of the guys that we see on the board, it is hands down Brian Branch. I'm not fielding. Uh, well, yes, I'd field calls for trades just in case, but I would turn the card pretty quickly for Brian Branch. This dude is a special player. He's really a. They have PFF has him ranked as their 17th player in this draft. I think he's a legit top 10 player in this draft, Brian Branch. This guy's a phenomenal player, really no weakness in his game. He can cover, he can cover tight ends, he can play the run, he can do it all. And it would be really interesting to see him out there with Xavier McKinney. It would be great. I guarantee Wink Martindale would love to have this dude. And he loves his safeties. He really does. And I love the safety position. If this scenario were to happen, we're looking at Brian Branch, Will McDonald out of Iowa could be a real possibility at edge for us. Very talented player who's been screaming up the big boards as well. I'm not looking at Michael Mayer. I'm not looking at tight end this early, except for one player, Darnell Washington, who I'll get to in a little bit. Jordan Addison. For me right now, it's between Brian Branch and Jordan Addison. These, in this scenario, these are two legitimate players that I think the Giants will be focused on. And I'm sure they'd be thinking, my God, Jordan Addison's here. We got to take Jordan Addison. He's a legitimate wide receiver one. I don't know if he'd ever be an elite wide receiver, say like OBJ became really quickly in his career, but I think he could be like a one B, so like a Devonta Smith to AJ Brown. Like if AJ Brown were to disappear, I don't think Devontae Smith would ever be like a legitimate 1A wide receiver on the Eagles. I don't think he's that type of talented. I like Devontae Smith. I'm not criticizing him. I just think he's got a certain ceiling. I think Addison has that type of ceiling where he'd be a great 1B, kind of like Toomer was. Like Toomer was our number one wide receiver back in the early 2000s for a while, and he was really good. But we wound up getting an even better number one wide receiver in Plax, and then Toomer became our number two. So Toomer was a successful wide receiver one for us, but then we upgraded. We leveled up and we wound up getting Plax, and Toomer was a great number two. I think Jordan Addison could serve as our wide receiver one until we could even get someone even better and pair that better wide receiver with Jordan Addison as a fantastic duo. And I know I guarantee if Jordan Addison is here and you're looking at all these other players that are left, Jordan Addison would absolutely be the pick for this front office because I guarantee I know they really, even though we've added depth to the wide receiver room, I know they keep saying they want to bring in more speed. They've made that crystal clear. They want more speed and more talent at wide receiver. They've made that clear. Um, and I think another player who's a legitimate option. So again, let me finish my point about Jordan Addison. This scenario, I think they're taking Jordan Addison. I wouldn't be shocked. I do think the Giants have their heart set on taking a wide receiver with that first pick. I do. However, if this situation's there with Brian Branch is so special in my opinion that I would take him. I would pass on Jordan Addison. I would take Brian Branch. And even though it's not a wide receiver, it's not a center who I'm dying to get, it's not a cornerback. I get that. I think this is a special player that he's the type of player that they don't grow on trees. They're hard to find. And you want this guy. He's a unique player. You want this guy. Jordan Addison absolutely in play. I think Emmanuel Forbes is a serious contender here, and I think he will be. I think he will be there. I think there's probably like a 75% chance that he's there when we pick Emmanuel Forbes. He's light. But other than that, he's got good measurables. He's 6'1", he's 166 pounds. Even if he were to put weight on, say he puts 10 pounds on, he'd be 176 pounds. That's ridiculously light. This dude can cover. He can really cover. I like him a lot. I like his athleticism. Again, those wiry guys they tend to be really springy, really flexible, great coordination, and he looks like Cordell Flott out there and he's got long arms, he's got a long body, and he knows how to use it. And he is a ball hawk. He's had a lot of interceptions in his career in college. I think he's had like at least 11 interceptions, if I recall correctly. I'm sorry, 14 picks. He's had 14 picks. That's a lot. That's a lot of interceptions. Um, if you watch his games, his game tape, you'll see that a lot of those interceptions, not all of them, but a lot of them were because the quarterback severely underthrew the ball or something else happened. It wasn't really necessarily Forbes making the play, just happened to be in the right place at the right time. However, there's something to be said for that. He's got a knack for being in the right place at the right time. Not everyone does that. And I think about that too, is that, yeah, you can be in the right place at the right time once, but when you're in the right place at the right time quite a few times and it leads to quite a few interceptions, that means something. But other than that, too, this guy has created his own interceptions as well. I like him a lot. He is a worthy consideration um, for a back end of the first round pick. And I do think he's on the Giants board because even though he's light, I have a feeling he's Wink Martindale's type of receiver in that he is long. He likes long players, long arms, and I think he's in serious consideration, especially considering that Deontay Banks is probably gone. Um, Porter's gone. Witherspoon is definitely going to be gone. Gonzalez is going to be gone. I think he'd be in serious consideration for the Giants here. I'm not looking at Felix over here, in Duque Uzuma, from Kansas State. I don't think he's on our board. I don't think he's on our board. Mozzie Smith, I don't think the Giants would be taking Mozzie Smith in the first round. He's a run stuffer. He's really nothing else more than that. BJ Ojolari, I don't think so. Osiris Torrance, listen, he's a really good guard. He had a fantastic Senior Bowl week. Really, really good player. I can't see us spending a first round pick just on a guard. I just don't see that. Uh, Deion Henley, linebacker out of Washington State. I like him a lot. I have to say, I don't understand why he's like a second round value. I think he should be like a third round value. This dude's a converted wide receiver, I believe. And he's a great athlete, but no, I'm not going that route. Um, there are some other players here I wanted to point out who, even though PFF has them listed further down in their rankings, I think Steve Avila. I think Steve Avila would be interesting. Here's a guy who I think is worthy of a back end of the first round pick. Here they have him listed as guard. That's the position he played last year, and he did very well at TCU. The previous at least 2 years at TCU, he was a center. Now the Giants are always stressing they want versatility, especially in the offensive line. They say they want versatility everywhere, but they also say they stress it on the offensive line. Steve Avila gives that to you. He's a damn good guard. I think I like him more than I actually like him a little more than Osiris Torrance, and he's versatile. Osiris Torrance is a guard. Period. Really, end of story. Avila is a really good guard, and he played center for 2 years at TCU, at least 2 years. Luke Weipler, I don't have on my board for first round. I wouldn't even look first round for him. But Steve Avila, PFF has him ranked 47. Most big boards, you'll see him ranked around 47. I think this guy is a legitimate back end of the first round possibility. I like him a lot. Where is the player I'm looking for? Let's see. I'll tell you, I love Julius Brents. I'm not taking Julius Brents in the first man. You know what? I can almost see the Giants taking Julius Brents in the first round. I think he strikes me as a Wink Martindale type of guy. I don't think they would do that, but I can see it. I can see it. Um, Here's a guy I wanted to discuss. Cody Mock. This guy is a really good player. He impressed immeasurably over at Senior Bowl. He's done nothing but impress over the past few months. Front offices around the country. Cody Mock is really interesting because this guy is very versatile. He can play tackle positions. I think both tackle positions. He can play both guard positions, and I could be wrong about this final point. I think he's taken snaps at center. But this dude, like I said, for me, I really want a center. I want to get out of this draft with a starting center, a guy who's gonna day one is gonna start at center. And yes, he may struggle in the beginning, but over time, over the course of the first year, improves. All young players are going to struggle in the beginning of their NFL careers. However, Cody Mock for me, and I think for the Giants, is a worthy uh, pick for 25 if they wanted to go that route because this guy is a really good player. He's extremely versatile. In my mind, I have him ranked higher than number 56 um, than PFF. And again, this is going according to PFF's rankings. Um, but I have Cody Mock worthy of being a late first round pick. I love that dude. I really do. I seriously believe in him. And where is I want to talk about Darnell Washington, and this will never happen. All right, he's ranked 68th on this big board. I've got for me Darnell Washington is my number one tight end in this draft. If you want a guy who's going to purely be a serious receiving threat, Dalton Kincaid, who in this mock went number 22 to the Ravens, Dalton Kincaid is your guy. However, Darnell Washington to me is a man amongst men. He is like, you see him out on the field against other players. He looks like a man playing football against teenagers. He is I love watching him play. I love watching his film. I'm not saying he's the best player of this draft, but he's my favorite player in this draft. 6'6", 264 pounds. He's actually lighter than I thought he was. I thought he was more like 275. He looks ginormous. And this guy's got really good hands. I promise you, if Darnell Washington were not playing on the same college team as Brock Bowers, the best tight end in college. If he were not playing on the same team as Bowers, Darnell Washington would have a bigger name than he does right now, and he'd have even more offensive production in college. He would have. He's a great blocker, a good pass blocker, an even better run blocker, and this guy is really hard to bring down. People tackle him, to try to tackle him high. They legitimately bounce off this dude. They try to tackle him low. He basically, runs through their arm tackles. He runs them over. They basically have to take. It takes like two guys to off him to bring this guy down. He's so huge, and even then, Darnell Washington is always falling forward. Even when you've got two or three guys on him trying to bring him down, he's always falling forward. He is a sneaky good athlete. You got to watch Darnell Washington's tape. He is so fun to watch. He's got really good hands, and he's a very good athlete. His body control in the air is really impressive to watch. So for me, he's actually my tight end one now. I wanted to bring him up because I do think he'll be there when we pick. And we're not going to take Darnell Washington in the first round. However, I had to bring him up because he is my favorite player. I'm not saying he's the best, but he's my favorite player in this draft. And this is like having a sixth offensive lineman out there, a legitimate one out there, who can go out and also catch and wreak some havoc in the receiving game too. This guy, this guy is hard to bring down. I love Darnell Washington, and he looks like an alpha. He really does. Like this guy plays the game like an alpha. He really does. I love it. He is like the type of personality that I want to see more of on this Giants team. I like our guys. I like our players. I also think there's a little too much niceness on the team. Darnell Washington he's got dog. He's got dog in him. And understandably so. He's on the Georgia Bulldogs, but Darnell Washington's got dog in him, and the Giants need more of that. So these are the play. I just wanted to go over, focus on the first round players who I think could, good chance of being there to being from either like, a really good chance to being there for us to at least being, say, like 25% chance of them being there, which I think is legitimate. If there's a 25% chance they could be there, then I wanted to discuss them. If I thought they were realistic for the Giants, not all of them are. Not all of them are. So anyway, all right, guys, that's pretty much a wrap on the show. Pretty much in the wrap on the show for tonight. And again, just focused on the first round. Want to talk about the players who I thought made sense for the Giants, who I thought could be there for us, and also for the players who I thought, yeah, these guys, they're going to be there, and these are the type of players we want to focus on. So I love talking about this stuff. I could always talk about draft stuff. And again, I have my special guest coming on tomorrow night, and that is Football Grump and the Cranky Fan from Just Giants. And we're going to record that episode. I'll release that Friday morning, and we'll be talking about their thoughts on, how the Giants should approach this draft, who they'd like to see the Giants draft, what their focus is as two very knowledgeable Giants fans. I'm dying to hear what they have to say in person, dying to pick their brains, get their opinions, and I'm really looking forward to doing that show. But anyway, everybody, let me wrap up over here. It's been almost an hour. Cool. That's what I wanted to keep it to. Let me get, again, Twitter handles for me and all of my compadres here at Toilets to Titles. There's like 15 of us. If you can, follow everyone, these Twitter handles. Do it. Do it now. Do it now. They're all they're a great bunch of guys and gals, and please follow them all. Just a great group of people. So they deserve you to follow them on Twitter. And please, friendly reminder: hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review. Why, you may ask? Because we deserve it. Anyway, guys, I'm out here. I'll catch you soon. Really looking forward to the draft. Have a great weekend, and I will see you soon. Joe Knows out.